say. The big question being, what are we going to see here from both of these? But the bigger point of excitement, Des, I know that everybody at home is just as excited as you and I, because R6 competitive esports are back right here, right now, Des. I once had a dream that my hair was growing back in and I wasn't excited as I am right now.
You got used to having the egghead, mate. That's what it's all about. You don't need the hair on your head. There's enough to make the rest of your hair stand on end in this game, no doubt. And of course, if you are watching quite attentively, guys, there are some updates to the UI here, as you're seeing in the ban phase 2. Current bans coming out. We did get to see an APAC South. This map played a couple of times earlier today. I watched back the Giants versus Xavier one. The bans are completely different. It was a double hard breach ban there of Ace and Maverick, where Mai and Malusi were the last two to follow through. The Valkyrie's been taken away here on the defensive side, followed by the Mirror. So completely different bans to what we're seeing all the way around the world.
Big thing to remember here on Chalet is that what you see played here right now is probably going to be at least reasonably, if not significantly different to what you see played on this map in 6 weeks' time, in 12 weeks' time. It is going to change. It's brand new into the comp rotation, and teams are going to be feeling it out, particularly on attack. We would expect potentially for the defenses to do quite well initially. That's what we saw with Oregon, as well as a good example, a good counterpart there, was the changes came in, and for a while at least, the defenders did very well, because it just takes the attacking teams that little bit of time to figure things out. But what do we already know about Chalet, Des? That's the big question. Well, we know that verticality is very, very important. There is going to be a lot of battles over that top floor, particularly your solar, your library, your bedroom areas, exactly as we're looking at now. Thank you, medics. These are going to be hard-fought areas, because look at all those lovely wooden floors, Des. Looks like it's about time to get those bad boys ripped up.
Yeah, and they're saying it's time for some new flooring to go down. It looks great to me, but clearly the guys disagree. And over in APAC South earlier, we did see Giants running a 3-roamer on the top floor, set up, interestingly, with a castle. So maybe we're already starting to see some preference here for teams. And look at it with the Aruni on side as well. They are going hell for leather here. Someone needs to tell them that on the downstairs site, but it makes total sense, because the entirety of the top floor here, in the areas they're holding at least, is soft. You break those up, you have angles onto the windows, angles through hatches. It's impossible for the attackers to take the site without first assaulting the top floor. So not all that different to what we see on a number of other maps, when you have to first clear the top floor before you can look downstairs. Dining on Villa jumps to mind when I think of that kind of example.
Yeah, I think, we could factor Cafe in there as well. Very popular map for going for those top floor clearances. So moving into top floor, Blur's heading straight through library. That, I think, quite often is going to be the point of entry, at least to begin with. Get yourself in, get yourself established, boots on the ground, see if you can start picking up some of these kills over towards bedroom, clear out that verticality, put your operators like Buck and Zafia to use, ripping up those floors, get your vertical angles, hopefully with maybe 45 seconds or so left to start thinking about getting onto site and getting an execute. But it's worth mentioning on the defensive side as well, there's, of course, we have Aruni in play. You've already mentioned her, so that is again another new addition here to us. Zero has been banned out, so a couple of new operators to get our heads around as well and see exactly just how they are going to feature. But Aruni, for anybody who doesn't know, she brings along what we call some laser gates. So sort of similar to Castle in a way. They can block off a doorway, a hatch, a window, and just prevent movement through it clearly. But a little bit easier to get out of the way, because you can throw a disposable utility, flashbang similar, through them, and that'll stop them working for 30 seconds.
Do you remember how happy I was at the way that you say sexy cake for me again, like you did at OGA Pit?
What have I said now? Sexy cake.
Sexy cake. This time you said laser gate. It's the small things that give me joy in life, Ace, and hearing you say Lasergate apparently is one of them. But Doki's having some joy of his own, bringing down Nora Durza following a couple of seconds later. That's 2 for Doki, make it 3 for NaVi in total, as Blaz does come to life, but instantly dealt with by Nath, the new addition to the NaVi lineup. So there was a lot of setup here, getting control of that top floor, but now that NaVi have found it, well, we're starting to think about the downstairs. However, like on many of the maps, you spend so much time clearing the top floor that you've then got to worry about what is going on downstairs with a about 30 seconds left to play. And here you've got them in a spot where they have the control, but have now got to start thinking about the execute as well as getting this pinch off onto Chaoxys. And down he will go. It's a 1 versus 4 for Spark. Experienced he may be, but able to survive a 1 versus 4, that may well be a different question. There's one coming down solar stairs. Some bullets come in, secretly going to strike true, and NaVi win that first round with quite some comfort.
Secretly coming in without fear. 2 kills on the round, I think it was for him, and a great start to just inaugurate him into this lineup on the NaVi side. And Doki, of course, showing him just exactly how it's done as well, with a couple of kills himself. But a great first attacking round from NaVi, and that could well paint a little bit of a picture of how we might expect things to go, Des, because of course that was the kitchen site that was being defended. But you see now the site that they're moving on to as their secondary site is the top floor site, master bedroom and office. And now that is basically where we have just seen NaVi assault. So they are more than likely going to rinse and repeat. Very similar. I would expect the same sort of push coming in from the library side stairs of things. It's the west side of the map, left-hand side as you look at your screen now, and just sweeping across that top floor, picking up frags as they go. So it's going to be very important in this round, probably more so than others, for TrainHard to come in here and get themselves some kills. They've only managed 1, and that was in the shape of Blaz on to Blur. So they need to find themselves a few more. They need to very quickly let NaVi know that they are in for a game here.
Indeed, that's one way to think about it. And looking across to APAC earlier on, the often setup that we saw coming through is when you're defending this site, you hold library down towards the southwest. You're looking to waste as much time as you can. And that's starting to already feel like the aspect, I think, of this map is how much time can you waste away from the site. So when it comes around to actual execution time, there's only 30 or 40 seconds left. And you might say, Des, 30, 40 seconds is tons of time. What's the concern there? It's more the fact that if you make a single mistake, that extra 10 to 15 seconds that it can take to correct it, get drones down, you simply don't have that to play with. So when it does come around to actually going for an execute on site, you've got 10 seconds left. You have one chance to make it work. Otherwise, the round is over. So it's all about how much time the teams can burn off site here that determines how successful they should be later into the round.
You're absolutely right, Des. If I think back to my LATAM days, not too far distant, but teams like, oh, that's excellent use of the Z ping from Doki there. Gets the feed onto Blaz and goes in and just cooks him for dinner there through the wall, shuts the man down, and that is a second opening kill for Doki. Now, this is a dangerous situation for TrainHard because the Scotsman, he's starting to fly, Des, and that is a big problem. If Doki gets a little bit of wind beneath his wings, he's going to take this game away from you very, very quickly. And Blur joins the party with a kill onto Chaoxys, and very quickly, once again, TrainHard find themselves 5 versus 3, nearly 5 versus 2 there, as Noera takes some big damage as well. This is looking good for NaVi so far in round number 2.
Jesus, it's Doki all over time and time again, just picking up bodies to add to his head count. And I think this is something that Fluke actually touched on in the pre-Des show ahead of this game. Was, I think Milos put the question off, who stacks up against Blaz? And Fluke said Doki, and Jess wasn't too sure. But as it steps up so far, well, Doki's doing just that. Look at it across 2 rounds, 5 kills to his name, another 1 versus 4 for Spark to try and step into. And something tells me he's up for dinner here. He is the dessert that comes at the end of the meal here for NaVi. And they're looking to go up 2-0 after 2 rounds with the 60 seconds remaining to pick off this sole last player. Saves is at the window, down he goes. NaVi looking in fine form off the back of Doki's excellent work in these first 2 rounds.
Saves finds the final man through the piano window there. Nice easy pickup for him, and that is going to round things out. 2-0 to NaVi. But just to finish the point I was making about the LATAM teams, Des, before Doki so rudely interrupted me with a bunch of kills. It was something that we saw NIP and Liquid, 2 of the best teams in the world, both fall foul of repeatedly. And that was the point you were making, was leaving things too late in the round. Going in with 30, 25 seconds left on the clock before you're heading into sight is a very dangerous game. And the reason, as you quite rightly point out, is you're only giving yourself 1 roll of the dice. And you've got to hit a double 6, Des. You've got to get that diffuser down. You've got to get the job done. And basically, you leave yourself in a situation where 1 kill, 1 headshot flick, that can be the end of it, and you don't have an opportunity to get in and pick that diffuser up. And it is something that the best teams in the world do fall foul of at times. So yes, time management, very, very important.
Yes, it's a big one to see if they can work on it. I mean, for NaVi so far, there's no real need. They're pulling it off just fine. My only concern, if this trend continues, we get towards the halfway mark, and NaVi are way ahead in the lead, say 4-2, 5-1, something like that. They go onto the defensive side, and then it all comes down to TrainHard to get things right and correct what has looked wrong so far. They are now moving down to this bar and gaming site. Also worth noting that we saw earlier on in the Giants game, all 4 sites were played, and there's been some theorizing that, oh, wine cellar's crap, bar gaming's never going to get played, kitchen isn't very viable because of all the soft flooring above it, for example. All I'm seeing so far is that teams are liking all 4 sites and playing them as quite a spread to kind of still get that feel for what works in a competitive setting. Because let's not forget, many of these teams wouldn't have played each other in a hyper-realistic competitive game yet on this map. There's going to be a lot to learn over the next 2 or 3 weeks. All I'm praying for is that we don't get 5 maps of Chalet today. That would be a little bit too much, I think.
Well, we've seen it before. I think it was Jess that touched on. We had exactly the same when Cafe was introduced. But you're absolutely right. Again, it's not something that we can really say at this point in time that sites are viable or not at this level of play. Yes, we've seen it in ranked for a bit of time now, but that is a world away from what we are seeing here. And once these guys get their hands on the maps, then we'll really start to see what these sites are about. Now, Doki, he's going to put a few shots across once again to one of the defenders just over there in that library connector, but he's not actually going to connect with the man himself. So he's just going to hold an angle now, but that information being fed into saves, and look at this, they've got an absolutely deadly crossfire locked in there, and Blaz, he's just going to hold his position for the time being at the top of that fireplace, landing that he's on there, just looking to see if he can get an angle out onto the K9 window or out onto anybody trying to move in through main door. But Dorky's ready for the push up the stairs and gets himself a kill, but he's actually beaten to the punch in terms of the entry this time as Saves takes down Chaoxis in tandem, and we find ourselves 5 versus 3, 1 minute 15 left to go, and NaVi, they look electric right now.
Did they see Blaz just then? Do they know that he's sat in the backside of library here? I can only assume they do. And Doki, he doesn't care who comes up these library stairs. He's happy to take the challenge onto anyone. He's already put some more bodies in the ground, 1 this round to be precise. Now 6 across the 3 rounds as we stand. And I think here the pressure that's coming in is mounting up a little bit. He's finally brought down by Durza, and Blaz gets away in the nick of time. He's wasted a lot of time here, which is great for them, but they're in a 5 versus 2. You've lost 3 members looking to defend the upstairs. That makes this hold on site incredibly different, and dare I say, Spark, for the 3rd round in a row, may be about to find himself in a 1 versus 4.
Blaz is just going to hold his angle onto main stairs for the time being. Oh, Blur just getting... Come on, medics, let's be fair to Blur. Move away from that. Nothing to see here. Blur gets himself caught in one of those
stream every
traps.
time you're playing ranked.
It's just me in and out, guys. That's why I'm trying to defend the man. I'm trying to just have a little bit of solidarity for those like me who just seem magnetized towards those traps. But 12 seconds left to go, and whilst we've been looking at Blur's misfortunes, time has ticked down now. Secretly starts to get that diffuser down. TrainHard are going to have to do something here. Blaz tries to move forward to make it happen. Cannot do so. Blur almost brought back from the dead out of that bear trap. Manages to find himself a kill secretly with the final move of the round. And that is going to shut that one out for NaVi. And they now take a 3-0 lead. And TrainHard, I've got to say, Des, it's welcome to big school.
It is starting to feel that way, and we commented on this in the pre-show earlier that give these boys some time. It's not going to be an overnight immediate success. Some players apparently forget to take suppressors off of SMG 11s. Next week that'll be fixed, I'm sure about that. But give them some time to gel, and I think you will see them starting to come together. But that scoreboard, medics, let's bring it back up again for just a second, because looking at the kills spread across this team right now, there's what, 3 or 4, and you look to the NaVi side where they are absolutely dominating them when it comes to that kind of scoreboard. The impact coming out of TrainHard, it's train easy right now for NaVi. They put that toggle down to easy mode. Ace isn't here. God knows where he's gone. That's a thing, apparently. And he's back. What happened, buddy? Were your lights off?
Yeah, I turn them down for whilst I'm casting, otherwise I get too hot and I take my glasses off. It's a whole different vibe that I've got going on. I like to just get really immersed into the game whilst it's going on, and then I was just so busy taking my notes, I didn't notice that we were coming back out of the game. I'm too excited.
Reasonable. I actually thought that watching the player cams as they flashed up in game as well. When we saw Blur sat there, all dark around him and just staring down at the screen, I was like, that's a bit menacing of a look. But that's what the guy can be like. And Blur is a player that joined NaVi last year. Let's talk about him for a second, because he joined in during the Joe era when the pair of them came in together, made some big changes inside of the NaVi lineup. Blur wasn't spoken about all that much because it was Joe who was the one that was running out every window, looking at every doorway, looking to be the troublemaker. Blur, I felt, slotted in really nicely alongside Kendra and was a real rock for the team. And if nothing else, I think he's now part of the furniture. He is part of the NaVi identity that they are now recrafting with these two new additions in Nathan secretly.
Certainly is, and as you say, I think it's, you know, in a team of 5, when you've got big names, big stars who are coming out doing great things, it is easy to overlook every moving part that is in there. You know, it's not always, people don't always get the credit and the recognition that maybe they're due, or the contribution doesn't always get seen quite as much. But Blur is certainly one who has had a sizable impact on the shaping of this NaVi side, and we're seeing that today, and I'm sure that we will continue to see it. I mean, if you look at him in combination with Doki so far, 9 and 3, 9 kills to 3 deaths between the two of them. They are having a fantastic day. But I mean, the more important stat for me is look at those top 3 players. Nathan saves and secretly 0 deaths, 0 deaths, 0 deaths. All extremely important in terms of the contribution to winning these rounds, because it's not just about getting the kills, it is about living your life, it's about keeping it, and it's about playing it to the best of your ability, and that's exactly what they're doing at the minute.
We haven't really touched too much on that in this round either as well. The Gon 6 as well, of course, being introduced. And a few players recently I've seen saying, actually, I don't like bringing it. I like having the secondary for the times when you do really need it. The Gon 6 being the one shot now that a number of operators now possess. The ability to destroy things like castle barricades, shields, small things like that. Isn't high damage, so no, we're not going back to the Call of Duty 4 days of running around and noob tubing people. It's just blowing up barricades and things along those lines, so don't expect to see too much fancy coming out of those. But it's what it brings to a team, because looking at the lineup, there's no Ashe. There's the Iana on side instead being brought here, and when Ashe was such a thing for the longest time, it was essential that she had to be brought in every single lineup. I'm loving the changes that we're seeing coming through, and for the first time, it feels like finally TrainHard have got something going for them. They have the opening kill onto secretly, putting a blemish on that record of NaVi where 3 players were on no deaths. Now we're down to just 2.
It's a big moment for TrainHard, that. It's the first round in 4 where they've managed to come in and get that opening kill. They have man advantage for the first time. What can they do with it now? Nath, he's ready for this jump out. The question is Kaoxis going to go for it? He's punched the barricade out. He's used the Aruna melee to take it down. But no, he's going to dip away now. That was a smart decision. Spark takes a little bit of damage there from Doki, I think it was. And NaVi, they're sort of starting to claw the way back into this round a little bit. But TrainHard are looking much more solid than they have done so far today. That said, NaVi do have them pretty locked down back into sight now. I can see 1 or 2 TrainHard players still left upstairs. So with 57 seconds left to go, we need to keep an eye on those vertical angles and see whether it has ultimately an effect on NaVi's ability to push into sight. They could well suffer the consequences of that verticality.
It's the painful part where they have the longer angles to the south that you can open up from the lobby, and as you say, these angles from above that they need to be concerned about here. But those shots coming out are going to give NaVi all the notice they need that there is someone above, and they need to be cautious. Grenades coming singing through again. So much soft flooring on the top floor of Chalet that you've got to be worrying about, but they run headfirst straight into Says. The Spark is put down in the dumpster. Another one through inside a trophy, but can't quite find the kill there. Either way, it was starting to come back towards NaVi, but Blaz bringing one back the other way does even things out a little bit. Despite being in a 4 versus 3, Plant is going down. They've got the long angle cover coming across from the window by the looks of it. They'll get away with this, and they bring down Blaz. 3 versus 3. Post-Plant, double kill, both being traded back across to either side. That's 2 players on a double kill, and we still sit Ace in a 2 versus 2. You've got Kaoxis holding nice and close. He can, of course, punch a hole in this wall at any time. He's in a fantastic spot to be able to do something here and cause an upset, assuming the NaVi players aren't ready for this. 20 seconds still sits on the clock. Nora holding upstairs, and Kaoxis has got to make a move. Tries to go for it, but gets tagged down incredibly low. Likely won't be able to find a kill here with about 5 HP still to his name. Will find one. Triple kill coming out for Says, mind you. Kaoxis was down. Nora's the last one left alive. There's less than 7 seconds. This round is done and dusted. NaVi's unbeaten spree continues as they take their 4th round in a row.
The Saves and Doki show there, as Saves managed to get himself 3 in the round. Doki was in on the action as well. Blur, however, playing an extremely important part once again, as we've already tried to highlight, Des. He managed to get himself into sight there and got that diffuser down on the ground. It can sometimes be almost an overlooked element of the gameplay in Siege, and that is getting that diffuser down. Let's not forget, Once it's activated, the defenders are effectively turned into attackers. They have to retake the site. They have to play on the fly. They are the ones without a plan necessarily at that point in time, and it just throws everything into disarray. And NaVi, they were able to take perfect advantage of that. They found themselves a man behind in terms of the man count, but Blur knew that the time was right, the cover was in place, and he got the diffuser down. And despite the vertical control still being held by TrainHard, they didn't do enough with it. They weren't able to deny that diffuser going down on the ground. And now that could, Des, be a little bit of a symptom of playing a new map here, because, of course, we won't necessarily know where all the default plant spots are as of yet. They will develop over time as we try new spots and we see exactly what works and what doesn't. And so it can be a little bit difficult in the early stages like this to know exactly where to make those vertical holes. Where do you want to watch the plant spots from a vertical hold? So again, a situation that maybe NaVi have taken advantage of there and got themselves the 4th round on the board. This one is starting to get away from TrainHard quickly.
It's like I was saying back at the end of round number 2, I was saying, imagine if this half goes to 4-1, or sorry, 5-1 or 4-2. It ain't gonna be pretty for the switching halves here. NaVi, like the team that have come into Chalet a little more prepared for this game day. And maybe again, it's down to it being a new map. It's down to it being a new roster. You can't walk away from this map extrapolating and saying, oh, TrainHard are bad and NaVi are amazing. Worth mentioning, of course, as the weeks go by, you can also see the real-time impact of the current map score. Top right of your screen, you'll see the live ranking. Of course, with this being the only game so far, NaVi would hold on, air quotes, to first place, as everyone is currently drawn in first place. And sadly, as there are currently 9 teams sat in first place, it would be TrainHard falling down to 10th, at least for now. Opening kill comes through for Durza onto Doki. The man of the hour has been doing a lot of work in this game. A double kill coming out of Durza. Great flick there across onto TrainH to bring down Nath. And this again should be the first time, fingers crossed, that TrainHard have a genuine advantage here in a 5 versus 3.
TrainHard at this point surely just looking to get themselves around on the board and start to steady the ship a little bit. It'll give the players an absolute world of confidence. I tell you what will give Durza a bit of confidence. And Ace, if he can find it now, then he won't, as Saves manages to shut him down, but not before he does the damage and puts 3 in the dirt on the side of NaVi, leaving us now in a 2 versus 4. And there is an awful lot of work to be done by Blur and Saves here. Blur does have the diffuser in hand, so that is a point to the credit, but there is still kills to be found before they can even consider the possibility of getting this down and active on the ground. Now, you can see TrainHard, they're playing this smart here. 1 minute 18, they're just backing away. No. They're going to let NaVi come to them, and that was a bit scrappy from Saves there as he tries to make a push onto Blaz, but will be shut down as the man finds a kill, and that leaves us now 4 versus 1. There is a lot of work for Blur to do here. Every angle he's covered, he's just going to see what he can find from the rappel. He does tag Noera there and just puts a little bit of damage, but with a minute left to go, he's going to have to reposition and just see if he can find a few kills.
It's crazy how it's coming down to small things like this. Durza stepping up and finding a 3K. It's not the first time he's done something like this in a particularly important game. In the first one of the season, always going to be down as an important one. But just waking up and thinking, right, round number 5, yep, sounds like a great time for a 3K. Steps up and achieves the wonders they need. That will give them a little bit of breathing room. They still have 1 more defensive round to play. They get that extra 1 on board. You're set up 4-2. It's still not great, but it's definitely not going to be the end of the world.
Certainly not. We're going to be heading to kitchen and dining then for the final defensive round here. If we've got any brand new viewers in, which we may well have, you find that we play 6 defensive rounds and then the sides will swap over. So TrainHard will move on to the attack and they will be the ones heading into the building to try and get that diffuser down and active on the ground. So this is going to be their final defensive round and they are desperately going to be looking to put another one on the board here so they can take that 2-4 split and then hope to come back and basically do the same to NaVi and try and level things out here, maybe push it into overtime, maybe even go one better and get the win. We do play best of 12 in regulation time, so you would need a 7-5 or better to take that as a win immediately. If we find ourselves 6-all, we will move into a best of 3 overtime, whereby the winner of that overtime will take 2 points and the loser will still claim 1 for making it through to the final stages of overtime.
I love how you're already really starting to see this settle now, where here being on the top floor, well, on the top floor is where the players are basing themselves. The similar setup to what we saw earlier on. Reinforcements galore, castle barricades, the Rooney laser gates, or laser gates, as Ace would say. This is all for that downstairs defense where they had no one playing on site. So there's work to do again for the attacking side to get control of the top floor and start thinking about the downstairs. Earlier on for NaVi, it took them, what, about 2 minutes to get full control of the top floor, but they still managed to execute just fine. So for them, this should be business as usual. You're not expecting Durza to step up and get another 3K, but maybe it's Blaz, maybe it's someone else that achieves the same. So caution still needs to be exercised.
That's what they need now. They need a second player to move in and start supporting, start getting those kills. You need 2-3 people hitting 4 or 5 kills by now. If we have a look across at the side of NaVi, we've got Saves on 6, we've got Doki on 6, we've got Blur on 4, and the side of TrainHard just not managing to sort of reach those levels. We've got Durza on 4 and then a couple on 3. So we just need, probably no error, we need Blaz at this stage, as you say, to just step up and find themselves a couple nice early kills, follow up with an entry and just really give the team that advantage again would be fantastic for them. Now, Doki, he's going to be moving into the top of library stairs there, I believe, but he just gets caught coming out of the window there. He will be downed, will manage to get himself to safety for the time being. It's just whether one of his teammates can get over there and collect him before he's finished off, but it's not going to be before Nath gets finished off with a nitro. Noera managing to find his man there with the explosive and get him finished off and out of the round. So Blur will manage to revive Doki. That's going to bring him back onto 20 health, but with most guns at any sort of reasonable mid to close range, that is going to be only one shot away from death for the Buck.
It's quite cheeky as well. A good angle being held by Blaz. A different gun, a different day. Maybe that was Doki dead and down in the dirt. But for now, he's back on his feet. 5 versus 4 still stands for TrainHard. Once again, we saw NaVi playing through the similar position they did last time, pushing their way up towards the hallway here. And I think, in a way, we actually find that the castle barricade somewhat helps out here because they can now play a little bit deeper inside a hallway and play off to the left-hand side rather than pushing strictly down from the south. Not that it matters too much because they've got to find a way into sight without losing and bleeding out more members with a second kill coming in for Noera in this round.
That was very, very lucky from Saves there. Just got himself caught with his gadget out, and it could well have been an easy kill for Noura up on the top deck there, but he just wasn't able to swing around and hit the shots into the main lobby before he was challenged by that stun grenade from the Zofia. But Chaoxis is going to be able to take down Blur, leaving us now in a 4 versus 2, 4 versus 1 as Noura gets back in on the action again. That's a triple on the round. This could be a 4K for him. Okay, last man alive, last hope of NaVi here in round 6. Manages to find one. He's second on the round. That's going to be Blaz taken out. Even more hit points removed from Doki. And finally, his life goes with them as the kill is picked up by TrainHard. And that is going to be 4-2 on the half. And they are finding their way into it.
Baby Shaco strikes big. What can I say? Durza initially then turns into Noera in the next round. The problem with that, in my mind, is always going to be that you're relying on hero plays from 1 or 2 players. So how they translate this into being a solid attack that doesn't see them losing members to pushes or roams or whatever, that's going to be what I'm really curious to see. But for NaVi, things still look good. 4-2 coming out the half. If they were on the defensive side, you'd have said it would have been a good story for them. But to be that way on the attack, man, things don't look so hot for TrainHard here unless they've got something magic to bring out in their attacking half of Chalet.
Well, this is the thing at the minute, Des. We don't necessarily know who, we would normally expect on newer maps that defense is generally a little bit more solid whilst the attackers get it all figured out. But it could well be that Chalet just doesn't really play like that. And it could be that it's just taking, maybe it's a little bit more complex. There's 4 sites that we've seen all used apart from Garage so far today. So plenty of variety amongst those 3 sites. And it may well be a case of the defenders just looking to really settle on exactly where and what they want to do on this map, and that the attacking teams are able to take advantage of that for the first couple of weeks, first month of play maybe. We'll see. It usually takes a little bit of time for it to balance out one way or another, where we get to that sort of 45 to 50% win rate on either side, where we get into a really close balanced point. But TrainHard, they certainly need to come in and take this round for me. I think if NaVi get the first defense under the belt, 5-2, only need a couple of rounds to finish it off, then it starts looking very, very difficult for TrainHard to come back from there.
One approach that Giants were taking earlier on that I really rated was, again, with the change where you're not necessarily having to bring the Ashe here because you have something like the Iana with the Gon 6. They were bringing along a Nomad and an Iana at the same time. And after a little bit of droning, you send in the Iana, you make sure the whole bottom floor is clear, and then you air jab the living hell out of it. And you can hear the air jabs in your ears going out now. They've chosen not to do it, making use of the Iana, but it makes it super safe where you have the frags, you have the Gon 6, you have the ability to drone your teammates in, of course, with an operator and get those air jabs in. It's a great way to take control of multiple areas of the map in very quick succession. And although it's not quite the same approach from TrainHard here, the use that we're seeing coming out of Nomad from both teams is really interesting, to be honest.
So we've got 3 from NaVi holding top floor at the minute. They've opted to hold on to Library, being that it's directly above the site, which is Game and Bar this time around. We've got Malusi out there, Nath, just looking to hold down behind a deployable shield for the time being. He's just trying to prevent any push coming out of Piano, which is exactly the point that TrainHard now find themselves at, and they just need that little bit of aggression to open things up, to get themselves that toehold on this upstairs take, because they are not going to get anywhere near site until they have control over Library, because that is the vertical pressure above site that NaVi are looking to hold on to. They've got the hatches open so they can drop back now. Doki, he's going to get himself back into the action. He's had a couple of quiet rounds, but this time finds himself an opener, removing the head of Blaz, finding ourselves now 5 versus 4, and Blaz a little bit quiet so far. We mentioned him beforehand that he is a potential talismanic player. Now that is unfortunate. Blur shutting Doki down himself with a team kill, but manages to make amends with a big double onto Noera and Durza, and that is going to bring us now to 3 versus 2, but leveled up as Chaoxis finds Blur and shuts the man down before he can do any more damage. 2 versus 2, 40 seconds to go.
Blur just can't have Doki taking the fame anymore. He's saying, look, I can see how this round's going. You're going to go and murder everyone, so let's put you in the dirt nice and early. He sadly does die not too long after, and the 2 versus 2, as you comment on, it has come down to, but there is next to no time left. They're still droning. They don't have all the information they need, and they've still got mute jammers to worry about here. They have got one chance to get this execute right, Ace. If they mess it up, then NaVi are going to shut them down. That clock's going to hit 0, and it's match, well, round point over to NaVi, I guess.
To be fair, Des, with the way that a lot of the game has felt, you could be forgiven for thinking we were at match point. NaVi have had a little bit of a runaway with it so far, and secretly and saves run away with the end of round 7 there, find themselves 5-2, and things are getting absolutely no easier for TrainHard here. This has certainly not been an easy introduction to EUL for them. It's been a pleasure for me, Des, because we've had an excellent game to watch. Very exciting so far, but TrainHard, they really are struggling at the office today, and for the first time, NaVi, we're going to see the downstairs site. This is what I'm fascinated for, Des. I'm looking forward to Wine Cellar and Snowmobile. I want to see exactly how this one goes down.
I think many a ranked career was crafted on this site, is the only way I could possibly describe it.
Mine was ended repeatedly, usually.
Wasn't really one for you, Ace, that's for sure. But you're out with the Bandit. I've never seen you on Garage a good few times over. Here, there is no approach for a similar thing coming out from the defenders. NaVi aren't bringing any kind of electrification. And look at that. Many, many faces of the players in this game. It's something we are trying to get more of in this season, is of course more player cams. So you guys can see the reactions. You can see Blur looking menacing in the bottom right corner down there in the dark. Man's got some work to do here, summoning all the spirit of the devil to make it happen. Down in hell, or basement as it may be better known here, they've got to pull out some more magic, move themselves up to being a match point. And here's that team kill. I thought we were going to see the team kill, but no. You see the spray down instead coming out of Blur that turned into a double kill. That was his apology to Doki. I'm sure Doki, given they won that last round, is more than happy to accept it.
Oh, it's a great double by Blur there. Just that line of sight that he held initially through the soft wall, past the reinforcement, and just finding a couple of pixels, but then the awareness of knowing that there was the second man just closing in and managed to flick 90 degrees and hit the shot. Beautiful play from him, and really the best response to an unfortunate team kill. And as you say, as the round is won, those team kills are very quickly and easily forgotten. Not so much so when the rounds aren't picked up on the back of them. But we head into round number 8 then. 5-2, NaVi find themselves at serious advantage here. Only 2 more rounds on the board will close out the opening win. It will be for them in EUL this time around, and it will be a great start to Play Day 1 and to Stage 1 for them. I'm sure they're going to be keen to not let TrainHard back into this. TrainHard, at the minute, looking to push the rear garage, so they're looking to push into that big garage side and just move through rather than aiming for the breach on that double wall.
Indeed, it does. They'll work their way down through trench, into red, across into hallway, and a couple of the members looking to come in through the car garage to the north. So absolutely going to be this north take coming through. We did see Doki earlier on roaming up on the top floor, and you can still see at the top of your screen there that someone is still lurking above. So NaVi is still saying, well, you guys want to push in? Fine. You're going to have to be so wary of these flanks, and without any Nomad on side this time around, it could come back to bite them big. It's why you've got players like Durza currently holding West Main. But with this wall being opened up, Wine is going to get exposed to the world here. The world, of course, being TrainHard, looking for their push in and starting to think about a plan. But at this point, again, it's just so risky to go diving in and suddenly find yourself blindsided by someone like Secretly, as was what happened to TrainHard at the end of the last round.
Blaz just getting on the drone there, looking to find some information, but it's going to be Nath upstairs through the hatch. What an angle he's held there. Uses the UMP to maximum effect and finds himself a kill. That's a fight he's surely going to have to dip away from, as he's challenged by Durza on the Ash, who will win surely by superior weapon, if nothing else. Durza and Spark managing to get themselves two. Blur and Nath cleared out, and that is going to be the mid-floor pretty much cleared and in control of TrainHard now. So it comes down to 50 seconds on site for NaVi. They are going to start sweating now as this circle around them starts to close in. The pressure will mount. Saves. He's just looking to hold them out of Wine Cellar for the time being. Durza finds a headshot onto Secretly. 30 seconds left to go.
Still time to play with here, as you say, but 30 seconds means not a lot of chance for mistakes unless they can finish off these members of NaVi. Saves almost went down, but he turns the kill onto Durza. 2 versus 2, they come sprinting in. This is what we talk about when that clock is starting to run to zero. Chaoxis is by himself, diffuser in hand, but has got to find these last 2 members. He's got 10 seconds to do it, and then he's got to turn it into a win. He finds one, but look at Doki lurking here, just waiting for that diffuser to start going down. He's down in front of a camera. He's got to hit the plant button right now. Get it down, down it goes, but no time left. All too easy for Doki to swing in at the last second after being a wrap for the entire round, and puts NaVi up to match points.
TrainHard just falling foul of the clock there. We've already mentioned the danger of that second hand ticking by, Des. And when we're down to 15, 20 seconds like that, it can feel as if the attackers are diving in and in control. It can feel as though they are just moving into position to get the diffuser down. But it only takes one hero play from a defender to get in there and get a couple of kills. And all of a sudden it starts going south. And TrainHard have just found that out the hard way. Unable to get that diffuser down before the time had ticked down. There was no option to come off the plant at that point, and it was just an easy clean up for Doki to claim round number 8 there. Putting NaVi onto match point here on Chalet. I mean, I don't know about you, Des, but it is a map that I have enjoyed seeing competitively for the first time here in EUL. I don't know if we'll see it again tonight, but I can't make too much of a complaint. So long as we don't get 5 of them, I'd be okay seeing it again. I've enjoyed this.
I don't want it to turn into... Look, I was saying to someone earlier, I love seeing new maps coming into competitive play because the kind of innovation that develops over the weeks, the new cool stuff that you see. I mean, Oregon was still seeing new cool strats. I remember, for example, Tempra when they came up against G2 with their rush from Amaru coming straight into kids for a plant. They completely outplayed G2. It was amazing to see and shows that maps still have lots of innovation long after they've come out. But nothing beats a fresh map when you can still smell the paintwork, when you're still seeing teams adapting, coming up with new ideas. And ultimately for us, for the first time, we're very, very lucky that we're getting to see the first types of defenses that are coming out, the lineups that are being employed. That's what makes it fun to watch and enjoy. And as you said yourself, this has been thoroughly enjoyable to watch, although there is no doubt some work for TrainHard to go away and do and look at the things that have gone wrong, how they've responded to the aggression coming out of NaVi, because for the most part in these rounds, there has been a severe lack of trade-based play for them, especially on the defensive side.
The thing is, I've got a feel for TrainHard a little bit. Doki just shutting down Blaz there once again. Doki's had an absolute field day on the entry so far today. That's his 4th as I count it, and he really has been very, very dominant in those entry battles. But the point I was making about TrainHard there is I actually feel for him a little bit. There's not only, you know, anybody who plays on Chalet at the minute are coming into a new scenario, a new situation. It's the same for NaVi as it is for TrainHard. There's been limited time to get up to speed with it, limited opportunity to play, as you say, full force competitive games on here. But not only have TrainHard had to come in and make their debut, their biggest debut of their career in EUL here, they've had to do it on a map that they're not necessarily familiar with to the degree that they will be somewhere like Oregon, for example. You know, I think we might have seen a different TrainHard had we been on a more sort of default map pick.
Yeah, I think by their own choice as well. They chose to come to this map, let's not forget as well. So maybe we're riding on the chaos of a new map to help bring them through. NaVi came in equally prepared. It wasn't at all a problem for them. But this round is really showing what I spoke about earlier with the trade-based play. Early on, Blaz dies, no one's there to respond. Durza gets a kill back about 20 seconds later, but straight away, Blur is there ready for the trade. He's even turned it into a triple kill. Will finally go down, but NaVi collect round number 9 with Doki closing out the series the way that he started it with that kill to bring them the first match of EUL 2021.
Look at the smiles all round. You can see Doki bouncing up and down on his chair there. He's ready to go. And NaVi, they come in with a big 3-point win. No overtime required here. It is a very solid performance. The thing is, Des, we're not just talking about the 3 points there. That is a really great starter for NaVi. It really steadies the ship of inconsistency that we've maybe seen from them previously. Doki coming in at 13 and 5. That is going to be nothing but helpful. He's a player that thrives on confidence, and if he